If you walk through the commercial terminals at Las Vegas's Harry Reid International Airport, you'll see the usual crowds. But hidden in plain sight on the west side of the tarmac is a private terminal with a very different kind of passenger list. This terminal operates an unofficial commuter service known by the call sign Janet. Every day, defense contractors and military personnel board these specific, unmarked Boeing 737s, identifiable only by a single red stripe painted along the fuselage. Once airborne, these planes turn northwest, crossing into heavily restricted military airspace. Their destination is a dry salt flat called Groom Lake, buried deep within the Nevada Test and Training Range. It takes a massive logistical operation to funnel thousands of workers into the desert every week. Yet once they land, they enter a total informational void, a place the public knows simply as Area 51. The public's primary association with Area 51 doesn't actually begin in Nevada. It starts with this 1947 newspaper clipping from New Mexico, detailing the recovery of what was initially called a flying disc near a ranch in Roswell. That association was cemented decades later by a man named Bob Lazar. In 1989, Lazar claimed he worked at a secret site called S4, supposedly located just south of Groom Lake, where he was tasked with reverse engineering recovered alien spacecraft. But there is a strict chronological problem with connecting Roswell to Area 51. The Roswell incident occurred in the summer of 1947. The CIA and Lockheed didn't even begin constructing the Groom Lake facility until April 1955, nearly 8 years later. Declassified military records have since shown that the 1947 debris in New Mexico belonged to Project Mogul, a highly classified array of high-altitude balloons equipped with acoustic sensors to detect Soviet nuclear tests. If the alien mythos is a chronological impossibility, the bizarre sightings reported in the Nevada sky require a terrestrial explanation, and the hardware actually tested at Groom Lake was, in many ways, just as strange. In 1955, the CIA needed an isolated sanctuary to test the U-2 spy plane away from Soviet surveillance. They found Groom Lake. Almost overnight, a primitive dry lake bed was transformed into a fortified paved runway. By the 1960s, the facility expanded to accommodate Project Oxcart. This is the YF-12A Interceptor, a titanium-framed aircraft capable of flying at speeds exceeding Mach 3, a velocity that allowed it to simply outrun contemporary tracking systems. The base also took on a secondary mission. The military used the remote airspace to secretly test acquired foreign technology, stripping down and analyzing stolen Soviet MiG fighters to find their tactical weaknesses. According to declassified records, the Pentagon actively utilized these sightings to their advantage, even planting or encouraging UFO myths to provide a convenient layer of cover for their secret weapons programs. By the late 1970s and 80s, the focus shifted from speed to invisibility. This is Tacit Blue, an experimental prototype featuring a curved shape designed to scatter incoming radar waves. Those early curved designs eventually evolved into the aggressive, angular geometry of the F-117 Nighthawk, the first operational stealth fighter. But the unique shapes alone weren't enough. Rendering these aircraft invisible to radar required the development and application of highly classified experimental chemical coatings. The government used UFO conspiracies as a shield to protect these aviation leaps, but this absolute isolation trapped the workforce with the hazardous byproducts of their own creations. Operating a black site creates a severe logistical bottleneck. Because nothing could securely leave the base without risking exposure, thousands of pounds of toxic waste, including those experimental stealth coatings, had to be destroyed on site. The solution was brutal. Workers dug massive open-air trenches. Classified materials, computers, and heavy chemicals were dumped into these 100-yard-long pits, drenched in jet fuel and set on fire. The human cost of these burn pits was devastating. When sheet metal worker Robert Frost died in 1989, an autopsy revealed his body was riddled with industrial carcinogens and unusually high levels of dioxins. He and other unnamed workers suffered from respiratory distress and a painful peeling skin ailment crews called fish scales. The security protocols implemented at Groom Lake were designed to protect America from foreign enemies. Instead, they were actively killing the Americans building those very defenses. Frost's widow, alongside several John Doe plaintiffs, attempted to hold the Air Force and the EPA accountable for these environmental crimes in a lawsuit known as Causa v. Browner. The government responded with legal retaliation. They invoked the state secrets privilege, a doctrine that allowed them to seal all evidence and block discovery, arguing that acknowledging the chemicals used would compromise national security. In 1995, President Bill Clinton issued an executive determination. He explicitly exempted Groom Lake from all federal, state, or local environmental disclosure laws. With the evidence legally sealed and the base exempted from EPA oversight, the lawsuit was dismissed. The poisoned workers and their families were denied any compensation, accountability, or justice. This is the moral paradox of Area 51, a facility so deeply buried in the shadows of national security that the government is legally permitted to operate exempt from the laws of its own nation.